Thank you. Uh, Thank you. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. My name is Won Kim. I'm working. At first I want to share my screen. My name is Won Kim. I'm working in the Wonjin Institute for Occupational and Environmental Health as an executive director. In this seminar, I will share the experience and lessons from the study we have done, and I will explain the occupational exposures of the PFAS among the firefighters and among the general public in Korea, and also share the experience what have done in the side of the civil society organization in Korea, and I will explain some regulation for the PFAS control in Korea. Before presentation of my slide, I want to share the short history of the Wonjin Institute. In the 1960s, Korea began its economic development. And during the period, the Korean government want to start the normalization of diplomatic relations with Japan. At the time, the Wonjin Rayon factory was established by getting manufacturing equipment from Japan's Koyo Rayon. The Wonjin Rayon, at the Wonjin Rayon, they produce the rayon that is one of the artificial silk, very expensive silk. And during the making the rayon, they have to use the carbon disulfide, which is very toxic to the nervous system. At the time, there was no strong regulation to control the hazardous chemical exposure at the workplaces in Korea. So many workers in Wonjin Rayon exposed to high level of toxic chemicals. As a result, up to now, about 1,000 victims have been there at the Wonjin Rayon. So after that, the workers and civil society organizations struggle against the government to uh, to be approved. This is the work-related disasters. Finally, they won against the government, and they were approved as work-related victims, and they get some fund from the government. So they established foundation for the victims, and the foundation established two hospitals and one research institute. That is Wonjin Institute for Occupational and Environmental Health. After that, the Wonjin Rayon closed and the manufacturing equipment sold to the China. And the factory in the China also closed because of the same problem. And the manufacturing equipment sold to another third countries. So the reason why I mentioned about the short history is that the risk flows to the point where the regulation is very weak. So this is the same case for PFAS. PFAS, the hazard or risk of the originated from the PFAS flows to the area where the regulation is weak. The first, the first topic I want to share is the PFAS exposure to the firefighters. The IARC, the International Agency for Research on Cancer, is the world's most authoritative body in the field of cancer research. In 2000, in 2010, the IARC classified the firefighter as a job as a group 2B carcinogen it means it is possibly carcinogenic to human. In 2023, the IR graded the uh, firefighters, firefighters as a group one, that is non-human carcinogen risk. The firefighters could get a mesothelioma, and the mesothelioma is related with the exposure to the uh, asbestos, and they get a blood cancer or testicular cancer in their uh, because of their duty in the workplaces, the fireground, because they can be exposed to very hazardous chemicals originated from their workplaces. For example, they can be exposed to the polyaromatic hydrocarbons in the suit, and they also could be exposed to the PFAS, the one of the main topic in this seminar. The one of the region, the type of PFAS is P4A and P4S. The IAR classified the P4I as group 1 carcinogen and P4S as a group 2B carcinogens. This is the reason why the IAR classified the uh, firefighting as a group 1 carcinogen. Uh, from now on, I want to explain the firefighter exposure to the PFAS. This study was commissioned by the uh, National Fire Research Institute in Korea, and we conducted this study from 2022. It's a kind of a pilot study. It means that it's relatively small scale study, and we constructed the court to the follow-up. We recruited the young male firefighters at the beginning of their appointment. And then for 3 years, we collected their urine and blood for the biomonitoring from the same cohort participant. There are two internationally used exposure guidelines for people and peoples. One is HBM, that is Human Biomonitoring 1 and 2 guidelines, which is established by the German Ministry of Environment. When the exposure levels exceed the HBM2 guidelines, it means you have to find out the exposure source immediately, and you have to get rid of the exposure source. And another guidelines is tolerable weekly intake, which is established by the European Food Safety Authority. The TWI is the sum of four PFAS, that is P4, PFNA, PFHXS, and PFOS. They are all regionally PFAS type, and they are all health-based guidelines. And one of the health-based effect is the immunotoxicity. Another rationale for establishment of this guideline is the metabolic impact. When the serum PFAS level increased, the cholesterol level in serum also increased. Another health effect is related with the development toxicity. When the exposure level is when the PFAS exposure level is high, then the health effects transfer to the children. I think that uh, the TWI guideline is more scientific and more rational because there are so many types of PFAS in the world, and we are exposed to all the types of the PFAS. So the total sum of the guidelines for the total sum of main PFAS is more conservative and more scientific. This is the first result of the firefighters biomonitoring study. In this slide, you can see the PFAS level in their blood increased alongside with the length of their career. And the exceedance rate for the HBM2 is also increased alongside accordingly with their length of their career year. This is one of the representative example of PFOA increase accordingly in their career year. In the vertical box, you can see the three dots. The blue dot is the result of the PFOA in 2021, and orange for 2024, and gray for 2023. These firefighters, when he was appointed as a firefighter in 2021, his PFOA in blood level was about 10. But in the next year, his PFOA level increased to about 17. And finally, in 2023, the PFOA level in his blood was reached to about 23. And we compare the firefighters' PFAS exposure level with the PFAS exposure level among the general population in Korea. In Korea, the Ministry of the Environment, since the 2009, they have conducted the Korean National Environmental Health Survey. In this survey, the Ministry of Environment recruits about 5,000 general population in every 2 years across the Korea. They collect their urine and their blood, and they analyze so many kinds of chemicals. So they report how many chemicals are exposed and how much they are exposed in Korea population. We compare the result from the cycle 4 survey. For example, the the young male in the general population, their PFOA level in blood was 4.1, and it is very similar to the firefighter exposure in 2021. As you can see in this table, the exposure level increased accordingly with the career year. And as for the male in their 30s, the exposure level in general population is about 5.8. But the firefighters in the same age group, the exposure level was started from 4.1, but its exposure level increased and reached to 6.3, which is much higher compared to the general population. It means that the exposure level among the firefighters is compatible with the same age group of the general population, but their exposure level increased because of the exposure from the workplaces, and the exposure could be higher compared to the general population exposure level. This slide shows the other type of papers. For example, PFOS and PFNA are the legendary type of papers. The exposure level also increased, similar to the pattern of PFOA. But as for the PFHXS, there is no increasing pattern in this case. So we don't know why PFHXS is showed the different pattern, but we don't understand why which shows the increasing pattern and other type of papers show show the different trend. In my knowledge, the PFHXS is one of the main material which is used as the firefighting foam, but we don't know the PFHXS has has a has affected the exposure to the firefighters. Anyway, I can add some explanation in the radar slide. Then why the firefighters uh, are exposed more why the firefighter exposure level is much higher compared to the general population. We have to find out the exposure sources in their workplaces. This is one of the clues to be used in the explanation about the high level exposure among the firefighters. We collected the dust which are captured in the air purifier and vacuum cleaners, which is used in the fire station. And also we collected the dust from the general office, and we compared the PFAS level in each dust. We analyzed about 17 types of the PFAS. We added the four main regional PFAS, that is PFOA, PFNA, and PFHSS. And some of the total four types of the PFAS level in dust from the fire station is much higher, about 5 and 10-fold compared to the level in the dust captured in the general office. And the waiting room, which is used for firefighters to for the waiting for emergency call, and the office room in the fire station. The dust in each room uh, was higher compared to the general office, also 6 or 8-fold. And we also collected wipe samples from the surface of the vehicles, or for example, on the sheet, on the ceiling of the vehicles, which is for fire responses. And and also on the surface of the room, and even in the cabinet for the firefighters operators keeping. And also we collected the wipe samples from all parts of the turnout gear. So this is a result about the wipe samples. The wipe samples from the turnout gear and vehicles or garage, the paper's content is compared 2-fold to 12-fold higher compared to the wipe samples from the general office. And we also collected the wipe samples from the outer shell of the turnout gear and the inner lining of the turnout gear, and we compared the contamination level. The contamination level on the outer surface of the turnout gear is much higher compared to the inner lining. It means that the firefighter carry the contaminant on their turnout gear and carry them into the office. So this is one of the main exposure sources for the firefighters. And some research suggested that some papers material, which used as the waterproof in the turnout gear, may be one of the exposure sources for the firefighters. And you may be interested in the AFFF, that is aqueous film forming foam, which is very well known for the people's use. Generally, it is well known that PFAS containing firefighting foam is one of the main export sources for the firefighters. And several years ago in Korea, there was also the concern about the PFAS use in the firefighting foam. And I can't remember the exact year, but anyway, the Ministry of the Firefighting decide to replace the old PFAS containing firefighting with the alternative that is eco-friendly products that containing no PFAS. I take this picture last year in the one of the station in Seoul, and the label on the drum explain that this foam is free from PFAS, and this is the MSDS prepared by the manufacturer. MSDS means the Material Safe Data Sheet, and this report they show that analysis data about the P4, P4's PFHXS, and the report they not detected this kind of the PFAS in this product. So nowadays, in the fire station in Korea, they normally use the PFAS containing firefighting foam, but the problem is in the private sector. For example, the petrochemical industry. So in the private sector, they are replacing the PFAS containing foam with the alternative firefighting foam. So they call for government to extend the exemption period. And then the Korean government called for the Stockholm Convention to get a the period for exemption. So the Korean government approved for the 4 year transition period from the Stockholm Convention last year. So in summary, the exposure level of the firefighters to the PFAS is very high compared to the general population because it is originate from the exposure from their workplaces. And this is a story about the general population exposure to the PFAS. This study was funded by the one of the public foundation in Korea. We recruited 50 families composed of about 160 family members in 2023 and 2024. For this study, we collected the urine and blood from the participant, and we also collected the dust and drinking water from each participant's house. And also we collected the consumer products and food to analyze the uh, EDC, the endocrine disrupting chemicals, and the POPs in each samples. We analyzed the very many kinds of hazardous chemicals, for example, the phthalate, which is used to as a plasticizer in the PVC plastic, and the BPA. You may well know about the BPA, which is used in the thermal papers, and the flame retardant used in the construction, and and also the PFAS. We analyzed the PFAS and the dust and the drinking water. I will show the result in the following slide. We analyzed about 50 kinds of hazardous chemicals, and we detected about 92% of the hazardous chemicals detected in the samples. And the average number of detected chemicals in the urine and the blood was 32, and the 16 chemicals detected in all the urine and blood samples. Of the 16 chemicals, six from phthalates, one from flame retardant, and nine from PFAS. Uh, this is this is result is about the PFOA exposure. The PFOA exposure level from this study is about fivefold higher compared to the USA general population. The ENHANCE is the National Health and Nutrition Examination Survey in USA, and the HBM4 EU is the Human Biomonitoring for European Union. The children's exposure level of PFOA in Korea is compared to the 5.6-fold higher compared to the teenagers in European countries. The PFOA the excidence rate for HBM2 PFOA is about 19% in the general population in Korea. I already said that there are two kinds of guidelines for people up on peoples. One is HBM, and second one is TWI from the EFSA. HBM for EU, the Human Biomonitoring for European Union study, the exceedancy rate for the TWI across the European countries average 14.3%. But in this is in this citizen biomonitoring study in Korea, the exceedancy rate for the TWI is about 92%, and the exceedancy rate for the Korean firefighters is 92.3%. In preceding slide, I already showed that the exposure level of people in Korean citizen is about fivefold higher compared to the USA and European societies, and also the excellency rate for the TWI is about seven or eightfold compared to the European societies. Uh, I don't know exact reason why Korean population is very high contaminated by the papers. Maybe one of the reason is could be found in the drinking water and some types of the food. In this study, we collected about 50 drinking water from the participant house, and this is the result about the drinking water. There are many different guidelines for drinking water about the people's level. For example, the Korea set up the guidelines for people and peoples to 70 micro and nanogram per liter. And in Japan, in my knowledge, the some of peoples and people are have to be under the 50 nanogram per liter. In US, the US EPA has the most conservative enforceable level about the P4 and peoples. Last year, they set up the 4 microliter per liter for each P4 and peoples. In the drinking water analysis results, we only detected the P4 and not other PFAS type was detected. Only PFOA was detected, and the level in the drinking water, the highest concentration was detected in the underground water, and followed by the tap water. Almost all the result, the PFOA level in the drinking water exceeded the maximum contamination level established by the USA EPA. And the good news is that when the water purified, then the contamination level dropped about half. For example, the level of PFOA in bottled water and purified water is about half of the level detected in the tap water. Anyway, all types of water already contaminated with PFOA, so this is one of the exposure sources for the general population in Korea because we always drinking water and maybe about 2 liters of water consumed every day. So the uh, the people level in drinking water contribute to the body burden of the general population. And this is the result about the PFAS level in dust collected from the participant home and the general office. And I earlier said the dust from the fire station. The PFAS level in dust from the fire station is comparatively very high compared to the other sites from the home, from the general office. You can see in this figure. So this figure shows that the firefighters' workplace is already contaminated with high level of PFAS, so they could be occupationally exposed to the PFAS. But in the case of the general home, the the dust is contaminated with the PFAS to somewhat level. So this could be one of the exposure sources for the resident in their home, especially for the children. The dust is the main exposure sources for them because they crawl over the floor and their hand could be easily contaminated with the dust, and they habit to put their hand in their mouth. So the dust in the home could be one of the main sources for the children. So this is one of the problem we can face in the living environment. It is well known that about 90% of exposure are PFAS from the ingestion of food. But we can add some other exposure sources, for example, the dust, and for example, the consumer products and cosmetics. This is the result about the PFAS contamination or PFAS use in cosmetics. This study was funded by Korea Federation of Environment Movement, which is one of the biggest civil society organization in Korea. The KFEM purchased 20 types of cosmetics, which is used very well by the Korean population. We analyzed the papers, many kinds of papers in the collected, the purchased cosmetics. In the result to show that 50% of the products contain the somewhat level of the PFAS. As you can see in this slide, the highest concentration was detected in sunscreen. Sunscreen is usually used and across all the population, and the the second highest concentration was recorded by the makeup. That is, I don't use the makeup, but the woman usually use those types of cosmetics. So this could be one of the exposure sources to the general population in Korea. We did not risk assessment from this study, but we want to show that uh, basically we are exposed to the PFAS from the ingestion of food, and we can also add the body burden from the use of the cosmetics and the and the and from the contaminated dust. After this study, we held a press conference to raise up the civil society's awareness about PFAS use in the cosmetics and PFAS export possibility. Unfortunately, the civil society organizations' activities on PFAS problem is not active in Korea. Some organization, civil organization, do their best to deliver the information and the news about the PFAS problem to the general population. One of them is Action for Carcinogen-Free Society, which our institute is also joined this society. On their homepage, they deliver the news. For example, you can see the similar graph which I presented to you today. And this is about the citizen biomonitoring study. And some of the news for the health effects about the PFAS exposure, and this news about the EU's proposal for banning the use of all types of PFAS in the near future. It would be better explain this slide first. This slide showed the news from the European Union. So the five EU states, the Germany, Norway, Denmark, Sweden, and Netherlands, proposed the submitted the proposal to restrict all types of papers. And so maybe if this proposal is accepted, then from the beginning of the 2027, all types of PFAS is banned in Europe. This figure shows how the strong regulation affect to the exposure level in among the general population. This study aggregated all the studies from the 1980s into 2020, uh, uh, presented to published in the German. The author of this paper insisted that the regulatory measures have significantly contributed to the reduction in PFAS exposure among general population. So I want to share. This is maybe the last slide, and this is about the regulation adopted by the Korean government. In 2019, the Korean government enacted the Persistent Pollutant Control Act. Uh, the other relevant regulation or act originated from this Persistent Pollutant Control Act. For example, the government decided to analyze the PFOA, and the PFHXS in the drinking water and set up the guidelines for each compound. According to the Cosmetic Act enacted in 2022, 12 types of PFAS should not be used in the cosmetics in Korea. From 2024, all the fire station they uh, uh, cannot use the PFAS containing firefighting foam anymore. The food containers should not use the pops. As you can see in this slide, some kinds of act and regulation already enacted in Korea, focusing on the regulation about the PFAS. But we have paid attention to the year of enactment. Recently, recently, the government decide to set up the regulation to control the PFAS. I think this is the reason why the Korean population exposure level to the PFAS is very higher compared to the other countries. The Korean population exposure level of PFAS is comparable to the German population in the 1990s. So we have to make some action to control the PFAS use and the PFAS exposure. PFAS is everywhere, and we, especially the Korea, are exposed to very high level of PFAS. So we need the strong regulations. In the mm, oh, you
Yeah.
go. In at the beginning of this presentation, I said about the Wanjin layers digester, and I talked about that the risk flows to where the regulation is weak. So I think the same problem is present here or about the PFAS. So I think we have to do our best to make regulation more stronger to control the PFAS use and to prevent the PFAS exposure. Thanks for listening and thanks for your attention.